What a piece of junk!
This is the Shattered Order Podcast.
Go switch off!
If you're looking for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes news, information, and theory crafting, you've found the podcast you're looking for. With your hosts, GoodNightPunk and WinKILLERinc.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 143rd episode of the Shattered Order Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Wink. What's going on, Wink?
Not a lot. Ready to talk some SWGOH. What's going on with you?
Oh, having to do this episode on a Thursday night as opposed to Friday because I won tickets to the home opener for the Diamondbacks tomorrow. So,
heck yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Go see the world champion Boston Red Sox play against my Arizona Diamondbacks. Nice. So that'll be fun.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that'll be really fun. And of course, by us doing it on a Thursday, you know that the podcast is not shutting down because people were wondering after us having a slight disagreement last week on a technicality on, a definition, but
words.
We're still going strong.
Yes, the podcast is fine. Our friendship is fine. We are not going to shut down operations like the AAF. So, unfortunately for the AAF,
very sad.
It saddens me so much that they are closing because. And I don't know if I'm going to get my season ticket money back from the Hot Shots. So that kind of sucks.
Oh, crap. I didn't think about that.
I haven't heard anything about getting my money back yet, but I have a feeling I should just say goodbye to it forever. So
yeah,
I'm feeling like that's probably what's going to happen. But I am upset. I thought they were going to last a while, but there they go. And it's funny. This too much football talk probably here for people, but FanDuel announced that they are calling the Orlando Apollos the champion of the AAF since there will not be a official champion, which I find hilarious because they were 7-1, and the Hot Shots, my team, were 5-3. Guess who Orlando's only loss was to?
Hot Shots.
The Hot Shots. I mean, come on. Anyways.
Nice. That's funny.
So people are asking about the poll. People are wondering why there's no poll. Why don't you explain that?
Well, as everyone knows, everyone loves a good poll. But we're not really doing a poll this week. It's going to be a survey. So we did this. It's probably been over a year since we did the last one. But it's so unbelievably helpful for us because we do have a feedback section in our Discord. We do have, like iTunes reviews and comments on YouTube and Twitch. And all of those are great. We would love it if you would give us reviews on iTunes. But this survey is fairly in-depth. It asks a, decent number of questions about, what segments you like, what you don't like. Gives you a spot to give feedback to the show. We would love it if you would go and fill this out. It'll be a link to it will be in the show notes. We'll also post on Discord. But this is really helpful for us kind of adjusting the show to cater to what you guys want to hear and what you think makes this show good. We obviously do this for you guys, and we want it to be catered to you, and we want you guys to enjoy it and us to talk about what you want us to talk about. So we would really appreciate it if you would go do that survey, give us some feedback. Good criticism, bad criticism, we can take it all, whatever you guys have got, because I remember last time there were a few pieces of feedback that I had never even considered that, like irritated people or something, and that we don't register unless we get told about it. So this is your opportunity to have your influence on the show.
One big example I can think of is it was from an iTunes review, actually, but talking about moving trivia to a community style by using websites like Kahoot and Quizziz. So
that is an excellent example. Yes.
Started moving it so the quiz could be taken by you guys when you want to do it, because of feedback that was given to us. So all these things you guys give us, we take it into account and think about it and what we can do to make the show better for you guys. And that is what we're going to do with the survey that we're putting out probably tomorrow. So look for that, and
Indeed.
We'd love to hear from you. So,
and big shout out to Frostvirus, who is helping us get that together and who helps us with the poll every week. So big, huge thank you to Frostvirus.
Exactly.
All right, let's do this.
Hey guys, what did you do in SWGOH this week?
Oh man, what a week in SWGOH. So this is our first full week with Darth Revan, so it's been kind of interesting to see how the meta has shifted and changed, and what teams have come up, what characters we have found out that are really good with him and counter him and all that sort of good stuff. I damn near made it to where I only had to do one battle to get a top 2 finish in arena, but Dark Diggler, one of my shard mates, he booted me from 6th to 10th the hour before my payout. So I had to do 2 battles, unfortunately. That was the best I have held in a while, and I recently changed my team up some. So just a couple points on modding my Darth Revan team. I have Darth Revan as fast as possible. I think he's 325. He is ridiculously fast. I do have pretty good mods. 2 other things I did this week. I Zated his leader ability and Zated Basilishan Fallen. I don't necessarily think that either of those are really all that necessary, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to say they're a waste, but you could do without them.
Would you rather put it on them or Rose?
Well, I mean, come on. Like, as adorable as Rose is, I'd rather have the Doctor's lead. But I went ahead and Zated them just because I do have them max completely with Gear 12 Plus and everything. And I was like, I'm going to be using the team for a while. It's probably a meta, so, meta for a while going forward. Might as well just Zeta them, so I did. And I have been really impressed with the team. It is ridiculously good. Like I said, I have Darth Revan the fastest. Basilishan, I did some experimenting with this week, with maximizing her health and doing a few different things because she gets that bonus health, which is really useful. But I still have a lot of health on her, but I have made it to where she is much faster because getting that corrupted battle meditation out there is crucial to keeping the other team from inflicting debuffs on you, because nothing can stop her unique from inflicting debuffs, obviously. Just prevents it from ability, so the enemy won't be able to inflict fear or whatever else, if that character has corrupted battle meditation. So that, I think, is really important. So Basilishan is my second fastest. HK47, if you want to go maximum damage, you go offense set. For 2 reasons. Because he gets bonus damage on his basic, which he uses a lot, and his AoE does not crit. So for those 2 reasons, you're better off going with offense set with a crit damage triangle if you're maximizing damage. However, one thing I figured out this week, especially when facing Jedi Knight Revan teams, you kind of need to get rid of that tenacity up pretty early. So I actually ended up going with a speed set on HK. I do still have an offense plus on him, and a crit damage triangle on him to help with damage, but he does have a speed set and a health set. The health set I'm not too strict on. I mean, I prefer it. It's probably the next best mod set after, you know, the 4 mod set. But I think that has been really beneficial just for getting more damage out early, especially after you inflict all those debuffs. I don't know how well it would work if my Darth Revan was substantially slower, so that is the one thing I am a little bit questionable about. But HK does so much damage that you don't really need to go with an offense set. You can probably go with speed, and he's still going to do a ridiculous amount of damage just because his damage is absolutely awesome. So I don't necessarily think that you need to go offense with him. And I have found that a little surprising. I was not expecting me to have those results with him. But then I'm also running Darth Nihilus and Sith Trooper. Darth Nihilus, I have him modded like I've discussed before. I have a lot of health on him. But more importantly, I have a lot of tenacity on him. He's around 120% tenacity. I think that is crucial on Darth Nihilus. It makes him so much better. And basically any comp that you run him under, I think you should be using tenacity and health on him. But yeah, that's basically what I've done with my arena team this week. Are you well, I assume you're using Darth Revan, but how's that team coming along for you?
This week has been completely and utterly different than last week with him. Like, I've moved back up into the top of my shard and stayed in the top 20 pretty much all week. Using the team that we were talking about last week with JTR, Bastila, HK, BB-8, and R2-D2. Yeah, that one's working really well now that I actually know how to get it going. Once R2-D2 gets his smoke screen out there and you get insanity from Darth Revan and tenacity up, kind of falls off from the rest of their team while you're all under stealth, it just kind of falls apart for them at that point, and it's about 5 moves and then the game's over, and then the battles are super quick and I freaking love it. So I am in love with Darth Revan now. It took me a week to come around now that I know what I'm doing, so pretty stoked about that. Yeah, I'll just go over. Mine's all my stuff I did this week has to do with the arena team, and so I Zeta'd that unique on HK, the bonus damage for fear and death marked characters.
That is a great Zeta.
So I got that one because I knew you were talking about thinking it was better than the other one that I got, so I just made sure to get that one on there. And I gear 12 Bastila today, so now that whole team is, besides BB-8. BB-8's still gear 11, but that whole team's gear 12 for the main ones on it. So yeah, now I'm working on gear 12 pieces or gear 12 plus pieces for Bastila to get that extra 12 speed on her, because there's a few times where their Yoda is fast enough that he'll go before my Bastila, and I don't want that to happen. So if I can get her just a little bit faster without changing around the mods I have on her, because she's really survivable the way I have her right now, then I'll be good to go. So I'm loving the team now. It's super fun.
It's fun.
Do you want to marry? Do you want to marry him? GoodNightPunk. Yes, but he won't return my phone calls. So you know how doctors are. Always so busy.
That is definitely true. Yeah. Busy inflicting debuffs and such. So outside of my arena team, some other things I've been doing this week is I am farming Django, Range Trooper, and Imbo. I'm trying to get those finished. Range Trooper, I've got 40 shards left. I am doing a node refresh. Same with Imbo, I'm doing a node refresh. I think he's about 80 shards away. I want Imbo for my Bounty Hunter team because he's great against Night Sisters, dispelling on the basic. It's awesome. And then I'm farming Sith Fighter, because I am 20 shards away from Nest, so I know I can finish her the next bounty whatever event that comes up. So I'm farming the Sith Fighter. And then, let's see, Sith Marauder I'm also farming. I'm ready to get him done. That way I can move on. I want to get Cantina finished. I've been contemplating, node refreshes there. But the other thing is gearing L3. So obviously I have a Zeta on Stormtrooper Han. And so I've been setting a Kira team that uses my Zeta Goggles Chewie and my Zeta Stormtrooper Han. But I want to put L3 on that team along with Nest and just try to make a really, really irritating scoundrel team. That's kind of my goal there. So I am working on gearing L3, who's not too bad to gear so far. I've been pretty impressed with how easy she is to gear. I'll be curious if we'll be talking about her later. But, yeah.
She's definitely... I've geared her to gear 12 twice. Once on my alt and once on my main. And I don't remember it taking that long to get her up. So I think she's probably on the easier side to get to gear 12. At least not on the really bad side of things. So she's definitely a good one to do. I love... She can pretty much slot into most places as a tank. And it works out pretty well. So
nice.
She's pretty awesome. Not to mention her ship. Hers and young Lando's ship is amazing as a reinforcement. So, like, so literally the only reason I have both of them at gear 12 right now, because I love that ship. So
that's understandable.
Yep.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to this next topic.
If I was a SWGOH character, how would you mod me?
Alrighty. So I figured it was only fitting because Chewbacca's back this week. So I want to talk about modding Boba Fett and bounty hunters. So, there are a lot of different team comps. I did a live stream. I unlocked Chewbacca at 7 stars on your account and my account, basically using the exact same strategy. There is a video on our YouTube channel, of course, youtube.com/shatteredorderpod, and you can see that video. But I'm going to talk about just gearing them and just kind of the use for them in general, because this is actually a pretty good team. If you don't have Bosk, Boba is a fantastic leader for the bounty hunters. So in the event specifically, because I've seen a lot of people who are still struggling to try to get through that, you want to mod all your bounty hunters because of Boba's lead. You want to mod them with max potency. And let's see, I am going to find his leader ability and I am going to read it to you. All allies gain 50% critical damage and 10% critical chance. Bounty hunter allies gain 15 speed for each debuffed enemy. Gain max health equal to 50% of the total potency of all bounty hunter allies. And gain 15% turn meter when a thermal detonator explodes. When Boba Fett is in the leader slot, not the ally slot, the following contract is active. Don't really care about the contract for the purpose of this conversation. So, because of that max health equal 50% total potency, I mean, if you stack everybody up, put 100% potency on everybody besides Boba, that would be 400% potency. That's a 200% increase in health, which is absolutely crazy. Especially for a character like Boba who has a revive. You can absolutely stack him up with health. I kind of think this is probably a pretty good arena team too. I don't use it because I have Bosk's lead, which I do think is probably better for the bounty hunters. But if you have enough bounty hunters geared and you need another bounty hunter lead, do not sleep on Boba's leader ability because it is still one of the best for damage output.
You said arena. Did you mean like Territory Wars / Grand Arena?
Yeah, like PvP, I should have said.
Okay. Gotcha. Just making sure.
More specific. So, if you load all those guys up with all the bounty hunters up with potency, it obviously makes them far more survivable. You would want to go with health primaries instead of protection primaries on all of them. Like a potency plus with a health circle would be the ideal way to mod everyone besides Boba. With Boba, you're still going to want the health circle, probably go with a health set. That way you have a larger pool that you're multiplying with that leader ability. And then an offense set is going to be the best way to go for total damage output, which we've talked about in the past, but it seems counterintuitive, obviously. But it is more effective because of that 50% critical damage boost. That damage boost actually makes an offense set better. Even if you're critting all the time, generally an offense set will be better on Boba. I mean, if you have just ridiculous offense secondaries with a crit damage set, it might be better than the offense set. But given similar secondaries and everything, an offense set will produce more damage, not only on average, but even if you're critting every single time. So that is something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about regarding this event that will certainly help you be able to complete it, more efficiently and do more damage and get the enemies taken out quicker.
Whew. You all right there? That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
It looked like you need a rest for a second.
Yes.
It's all good. Yeah, I didn't put this in the notes, and I'm kind of just going to throw it out here. Because it's Chewbacca we're talking about, this bounty hunters are used for Chewbacca, so this is like one of the better ways to mod them for that event, and just in Grand Arena Territory Wars in general, those types of things. Some good big news that came out today, April, 11th, I believe, the Millennium Falcon event is back. So if you have been farming for that since the first one was around, you are now being rewarded for that farming because the Millennium Falcon event will be coming back on April 11th. So, yeah, get hyped for that. I'm not. I didn't farm those ships, but I am okay with that. So much other stuff going on. Hey, I got him gear 5-star. It's good enough for now. But the only thing I can't use it for is territory battles. So, yeah, and that's what, one phase? No, 2 phases. It lasts 2 phases. So, whatever. It's fine. I've actually started farming those ships since I finished the Darth Revan stuff. So, the next time around, maybe I'll be ready. I don't know, but we'll see. So,
very nice. Yeah, I mean, great ship. That thing is a lifesaver in Grand Arena. I mean, so far for me in Grand Arena, everyone that I have fought that didn't have the Falcon, I mean, I have destroyed. They really haven't even had a chance. So I'm actually kind of glad that it's back because it is going to create a little bit more competition in Grand Arenas in which there are ships. So that's probably a good thing.
To answer So Vicious question in chat, why didn't they add MILF to the event calendar at the beginning of the month? Pretty annoying. The reason for that is the same reason with any event that's running for a second time, they don't announce the second time till later in the month. This time it's only 4 days later, 5 days later, I guess. But usually the second run on legendary events isn't on the calendar to start. It's announced with fanfare and hoo-haws and everything else later on. So there you go. Well then, we've got some. This is going to be a shorter show, but we did have a main topic we wanted to talk about that might be good for. Well, it'll be good for everyone just to know this information, but it'll be really good for newer players as well because of just what we're talking about. And that is gearing characters and teams and those types of things. And what's the best way to get that gear? What are the best teams to gear the easiest way, or to gear them the fastest, those types of things. So we're going to talk first about gear, how to get it, what's the best way to get gear, the fastest way to get gear, and the most efficient way to get gear, which we've talked about before on this show, but it's been a little while since then. So we'll kind of go over it again. Wink has a really cool page on our website. If you go to www.shatteredorder.com/gear guide, there's a giant Excel spreadsheet looking thing. I don't know what to call it. It's got all the gear that's in the game listed there, as well as the places you can get that gear, and then it lists out where the best way to get that gear is by the most efficient use of your crystals, basically, right? That's right? That's the way it works?
Yep, that's basically what it does. It compares the currency across all stores to the crystal cost of those gear in shipments. And I've got it kind of listed out. So, like, you'll see numbers in green. That's going to be the place you want to buy that from because it's the best value. Red is going to be really bad value. You kind of want to avoid that. Of course, there may be situations where you just have an abundancy of a certain store currency, so it just makes more sense to buy it there, which is understandable. But this is just showing you, in general, the most efficient way to buy it. And I haven't updated this in a while. I am working on a version 2.0 that I hope to get out here before too long. I've been working on that in my free time, which it's slogging along, but it'll get there. So there are a few really interesting things, regarding this stuff. And this is in regards to a few of the updates that I desperately need to make. Let's see. The Mark III holo projectors, that is one of the gear that you almost entirely want to buy with crystals if you can, because they're such a great value. The other thing is the gold med packs, eyeballs, and keypads, the ones that are 375 crystals for 25. It is just an absolute and total bargain compared to everywhere else, given what you could buy with other stuff. Your other store currencies, you definitely want to try to spend crystals on that if you can, because those are an absolute steal. And there's one other piece of gear that is a complete and total steal from the shipment store, and that is the Mark V thermal detonators. However, the Mark V thermal detonators are a little bit weird, because if you buy like the full salvage piece, so the one that has the 50 pieces built in, it's 1,274 crystals, which is the same price as a stun gun or some of those other pieces. However, if you buy them the 25 salvage packs, they're only 375 crystals. So if you do the math on that, 750 crystals versus 1274, you're much better to buy them in chunks of 25, because it's another one of those absolute steals from the shipment store. So I think if you do those three things and then save your other currencies to get some of the more rare gear and more difficult gear to get, you're really going to be in a great spot.
So, most important question here. What is the best way to get stun cuffs or carbontes or stun guns? What is your opinion on those three things?
So, it's kind of complicated, because stun guns, carbontes, and stun cuffs, all three of those, the most efficient way to get them is by farming them on the nodes. If you go farm them on regular nodes, that is the cheapest way to get them, assuming you're doing 50 crystal refreshes. As soon as you go to 100 crystal refreshes, that's suddenly now not the best way to get them. But those 50 crystal refreshes, great. The problem is you probably need character shards, so you probably don't have the energy to be spending on those. So if we ignore just farming them and start looking at the stores, the stun guns, stun cuffs, and carbontes are all absolutely fantastic values from the shard shop. You should be buying those every single time they pop up in the shard shop, because it is absolutely fantastic value. The next best place to get them is probably going to be either shipments, which isn't a terrible value, but they are expensive, or getting them from the guild store or guild events. The stun guns aren't available in the guild store, but they are in the guild events. They're just mediocre value there. But you need them. So I pretty much buy those every time I see them in a store, specifically Carbonnis and stun guns, because I will use them very soon. I need so many of them. I just buy them every time they pop up, even if they're not the most efficient. What's interesting about those three, though, is I don't have any of the farming locations for them in red. So there's not really any spot that is really just a bad value. There are places that are marginally less good values for them, but there's no store in which you purchase those in which you're getting screwed.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Anytime I see those in the stores, regardless, for sure in the shard shop, if I'm low on currency in most places, I will go directly after those in the shard shop over anything else because of just how good the deal is per crystal there. But you just need so many of them for all your characters that anytime I see them in any of the shops, I buy them, even if I'm not currently actively farming them for someone, just to have them built up. Like, for example, stun guns or stun cuffs. I haven't used stun cuffs in a while, but I've already built up like 200 of them just from buying them in the stores whenever I see them, because I know there's going to be one dude who needs 200 of them, and at that point I'll be good to go on zooming through those pieces, So any of those that you would just, if you saw them in the shop, you wouldn't go after? Any piece, just gear in general that you just don't think is a good buy from shipments?
From just standard shipments? Standard shipments, I'm not really sure that there's anything there that's really a bad value. One thing I do find interesting is, because that's the thing that I kind of base the value of everything else on. So that's everything there is just kind of average value, I generally don't like spending crystals on stuff. I will spend it on stun guns generally, just because I don't get enough of them from anywhere else. So I kind of get forced into buying them from the shipments. And of course, whenever I do buy them, I always try to buy the salvage piece, the piece that's, crafted in the light blue, that's black background. It's the one that basically has the 50 pieces in it already. You do save some crystals purchasing it that way. So that is definitely the way you want to go, rather than just buying them in chunks of 25 here or 25 there, unless you're just flat out desperate.
That happens too.
Yeah, that certainly happens. There's zero doubt about that.
Darth Revan gearing ? That's how that last time that happened to me. I'm like, oh, I can spend half this day farming this piece, or I can buy it right now. I am not patient, so I just buying it.
Yeah, no, I hear you for sure.
But yep.
Is there anything
one thing you
on
should
here
do
that...
one thing you should try to keep up with on this, or maybe we can just start writing down the information to add it later on, but the weekly shipments with these have a lot of these pieces in them, and I'm wondering where those shard numbers add up compared to some of the others on this list, because you can always, I think every week, or at least seemingly in the last few weeks, there's been Carbontis in there's been stun guns, there's been stun cuffs, some of the major ones we've already talked about in there. So I'm kind of curious where they rank on this list with the other gear pieces. You know what I mean?
Pretty much everything from the weekly shipments has the same price as the shipment, so you can kind of use that for reference. It is nice that there are so many of them, though. Like, that is one of the best stores in the game. The way they've evolved it to where you basically have every single piece of gear there. It is awesome.
Yep, I agree. So, one thing I wanted to mention as well is that some really good place to farm gear as well as get more out of it are some of these new hard nodes. Like, for example, what's her name? From Amilyn Holdo. Her has stun guns on it, I believe. And I think that either Juhani or Bastila had not stun, Carbontes on it. So if you look up some of these things, you can get, if you don't have those character shards, you can pull double duty on them.
You just gave me a good idea. I may make another row on version 2 that shows hard nodes in which you can get this stuff. That way, you know, if you need some of these character shards, you can look at the guide, you can see, you know, if there's a piece of gear you want and you want those shards, you know, just have the characters listed out there. That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of good ones out there right now. So, and I think that I think the one I'm farming right now, actually, I think you're farming it too. Is it Range Trooper that has something good on it too? Let me look.
He has something. I don't remember what it is.
No, he's not one of them. He has a Mark III thermal detonator salvage, but some people are low on that, some people aren't. I have 200 of them right now, but they do get used a lot.
For me, it's Embo. You know, he has the Mark V thermals, which I wouldn't typically worry about just because they're so much better to buy from the shipments, but I need Embo shards anyway, so it's kind of nice getting those. Oh, one other thing that I should totally mention, the Mark III Carboni, if you are going to actually farm it on regular node, it is on 1/8 energy node. Everything else is on a 10, you know, all that type of gear. But that one is actually on an 8 energy node, so that does make it a little bit more efficient than, you know, some of this other gear. That is a really good value as well.
And I was looking earlier, you know, with Carbontes, there's a 20 version and a 10, or there's an 8 version and a 16 version. I think the 8 is still the best deal. I didn't see anything on the double one that gets you double good gear.
Yeah, that's a good
that's
point.
Always something to look at is, you know, does the one that is more energy have more gear that you're gonna need than just the lower energy? Because usually the lower energy ones have the one piece of gear you're going for, and then something you have thousands of. But some of these, if you look at them closely, there'll be 2 of them that have 8 energy nodes or 6 energy nodes or whatever. And if you don't scroll far enough to get to the other one, you miss out on the one that has better gear on it. So always, when you're farming with your energy, look at what's going on besides just the gear you're looking for, because you can double up on stuff that you'll need later on by just paying attention to which one you're doing, rather than, okay, this one's this much energy, I'm just going to do that one. So
yeah. Yeah, you know, the hard nodes, they have the same drop rate also, you know, as the other nodes. The only difference is, you know, you're getting shards and you're getting the other stuff with them. So you don't get double the drop rate, even though it's double the energy, but you are getting the bonus stuff, so.
Makes sense. Anything else for gear?
Anything else for gear? Not as far as the gear guide goes, but man, we got a pretty awesome topic this week. So why don't we go ahead and play this?
Hey boys, do you have any tips for us less experienced players?
So I got a very big tip here.
I'm sure you do.
Very big tip.
Alrighty.
So if you haven't seen this online, there is a gear requirements Excel or Google Doc basically, and it lists out all the gear in the game, all the characters in the game, and how much gear they need. It's a really nice document. It's out there shared with the world, so you can go in there and look at it. I got it up on the screen right now. It's got, let's see, so we're on Death Trooper here. Looks like he needs 80 Mark V keypad salvage, and if you scroll over it, it'll tell you exactly where that gear is needed on that character. So for example, he needs it when he's gear 6 in the 2nd slot, when he's gear 6 in the 4th slot, when he's gear 9 in the 5th slot, and when he's gear 10 in the 5th slot. So it'll tell you exactly where you need it, how many of each thing that you need for that character, and basically it's a really good resource as far as visually showing all the characters at once with what gear they need, and so you can kind of look around and see where your gear would best help you as you save it. And yeah, it's just a really good resource, and that was made by a guy named J9449 on Twitter or on Reddit. I think I saw that he's from one of the guilds that's got some people in our Discord chat. So
Oh, cool.
if you know J9449,
9449.
let
That
us
is
know.
confusing.
I want to thank him for this. But basically what happened was someone took this gear spreadsheet and did something even cooler with it. And this is 8 months old. 8 months. So there's some newer characters aren't even on this now. Probably could use an update. And if I could get a hold of Idra Rage on Reddit, maybe he and I could do something with this, because it's a really good resource. But basically he went and he ranked all the pieces of gear and what each is worth on a point system, like how hard it is to get, how many people need it, so how often you're going to have it, and basically, you know, ranked the gear. So let me show you basically what he did with this. So he ranked out for 13.5 points, basically. These pieces of gear are the highest ranked as far as points go, meaning most people need them. They're harder to get. They're just some of the harder pieces, like Mark 4 Bactigel, Mark 6 Droid Collar, Mark 9 Biotech, Mark 5 Stun Guns. Those are all the highest point totals there. Moving down from 13.5 to 12 points, you have the Mark 4 Cheat Axe, Mark 6 Detonators, Mark 7 Shield Generators, Carbontes, and Stun Cuffs are worth 10 points. And you can see on the screen just how all of this stuff is broken down. And it goes down all the way down to 2 to 5 points for some of those things you have thousands of. So basically, he took every character that was in the game when he made this post, which was 155 characters, and ranked them out by who is the easiest to gear and who is the hardest to gear. And so I thought it would be cool to kind of go over some of the easier important characters to gear and some of the harder ones, important characters to gear, as well as go over synergy teams as a whole and what the easiest one to gear based on this, this information we have is. Okay, so basically,
Awesome.
I'm going to read off the top 10 easiest characters to gear when this was made. Okay? The number 1 easiest character to gear was Night Sister Acolyte. Second, Qui-Gon Jinn. Third, Lobot. 4, Poggle. Let me bring it up on the screen so you guys can see it here. 4's Poggle, 5 Talia, 6 First Order Officer, 7 Eth Koth, 8 Mace Windu, 9 Rex, and 10 Geonosian Soldier. So out of that top 10, I can think of 4, just looking at them, that I would want to get to Gear 12 pretty quickly. Yep. And obviously it makes it pretty easy. Which 4 do you think I'm talking about? I think you actually can see it, so it's not a very hard question. But are there any... The 4 I listed: Night Sister Acolyte, easiest character in the game to gear. Really good for 3v3 Grand Arena if you throw her and Zombie with Asajj. It's a good team there.
Oh yeah,
she's just good damage. The other I've had was Talia, because on a regular Night Sister team, Talia is for the heroic Sith raid is really important because of her heals on her basic, and the fact that she's the 5th easiest gear in the game. Yep. Just makes it a no-brainer. And then 6th, First Order Officer, one of those key pieces in a First Order team that I think is just the fact that they're easy to gear is a really big bonus, considering some of the other people in the team and what you got to do. But then the last one, if you don't have this guy gear 12, he's the 9th easiest, and he's one of the best leaders this game has had ever, and continues to be a great leader, and that is Rex. Because having him at gear 12, you can put together a team under him of pretty much anything, and he is just a plug-and-play leader that's been one of the best in the game forever. You got any arguments for any of the other ones there?
No, I mean, Rex is arguably throughout the entire life of SWGOH, Rex is probably the #1 overall leader. He's unbelievable. He has the tenacity up, TM gain. You should have Rex at gear 12, period. The other ones for me, I totally agree on First Order Officer because, he is kind of that keystone character speed-wise for making that team go. So really important there. Qui-Gon Jinn, awesome for a Jedi team. He has a pretty good leader ability. He has some nice traits that allow him to fit in just about any Jedi. While he's not amazing anymore, he is still very, very solid. And, I love Night Sister Acolyte. She is a great damage dealer. And, being the easiest character to gear in the game, hard to go wrong.
Yeah, and that's the same for Qui-Gon Jinn, right? To be the second easiest to gear in the game with that decent of a leader ability, even if without the Zeta on it, the speed is just really good if you want to have a third or fourth team using Qui-Gon Jinn as the leadership. If it's that easy, he's that easy to gear. It's worth having him up there. And as a newer player, he's one of the better turn meter reducing on basic characters in the game. So farming him and gearing him up, making him one of the easier ones, is a really helpful thing for a lot of new players in the Rancor. So if you're looking for Rancor still, if you're a new player, a person to help trivialize that raid for you, Qui-Gon was always one of those guys. So really easy gear and really great early game for the Rancor. So keep an eye on that. Now looking through some of these other 10 through 20, right? Or go ahead.
I was going to say, what's kind of funny? My favorite number is 11. You know who the number 11 character is on here? My boy, Grandmaster Yoda. Love it.
Right? Isn't that crazy that he is that low or high on this list, I guess, whichever one you say? Yeah.
He was the first legendary character. He came into the game super early. So a lot of this newer gear and stuff, I mean, he's pretty easy to gear up for a while. Plus he does special damage. A lot of times those special damage characters, they have a little bit easier gear as well. So, Grandmaster Yoda, obviously amazing and should be gear 12. So in this next batch of 10, there are a couple that I find really interesting. One of them being First Order Executioner, who's at 12. Just given how good he is in a First Order team, he's awesome. And then the other two is at 17, L337, and at 19, Vandor Chewbacca. I think those are two characters that, here pretty recently I've mentioned that I was surprised at how easy they are to gear, and then to see them up inside the top 20 on this list I found kind of interesting.
Well, I was saying that I didn't feel like L3 was that hard to gear when I geared her the 2 times, and now we have a reason behind that, that you can see right there that gear, the gear she requires is not as taxing as some of the other characters out there. So definitely a good one to gear up with L3 because she fits right into that scoundrel squadron. She's got a great ship, and she's just a good tank. So definitely one that definitely works there. You got a lot of Jawas in there. Surprise. But
yes.
You start rolling into the
there.
20s and 30s. You got Grand Moff Tarkin, who has a great capital ship. Works really well if in territory wars and grand arenas under Palpatine. If you go straight Empire and save the Sith to go under Traya. He does so many debuffs. Especially
with Vader.
Yeah. Throw Vader and Tarkin with Palpatine. That's plenty of debuffs to keep that turn meter rolling on that team, as well as I like to use TIE Fighter Pilot as well. There's just a good chunk of them to make it. But Grand Moff Tarkin being 21 with one of the better capital ships, and as well as just being a good utility player, that's nice to see him that low.
Totally agree.
And you're going to notice a theme, which we'll go into when I start talking about teams, but SWGOH is there as well at 22.
Yes.
So that's how many we've seen
well.
so far? Three Night Sisters, because Daka's 24, SWGOH is 22, Acolyte's number 1, and then we saw Talia was number 5. That's 4 Night Sisters already in the top 25. So that's a pretty good sign for the Night Sisters.
That's crazy.
But we'll talk about that here in a second. Veers 25. That's another good one.
Yep.
Pretty key
Emperor
cog to the
Palpatine
Imperial Troopers. Oh yeah, Palpatine.
I mean, there's some real keystone characters in here. I mean, Palpatine, one of the best leader abilities, especially for Empire. You know, like I said, him, Vader, and Tarkin, they do great for me in Grand Arena, just because you can basically stun lock the team pretty easily early just by having a super fast Vader, and setting up a turn order team there. Let's see. This one I did not realize, but is at 30.
Yep.
I mean,
that one surprised me as well.
Overall, I mean, as good of a character as he is, as great as his leader ability is, as great as his ship is, I mean, that might be one of the best things for your buck right there at 30.
For everyone listening to the podcast and can't see it, 30 is Bosk. So Bosk leadership ability for bounty hunters, as well as his Houndstooth, which is everywhere in ships. For him to be 30 on the gear list is pretty dang good for A, because of who he is, but B, also tanks usually have some pretty stout gear requirements with Carbontes and such. So having him that low is a pretty good sign. And he might still need the Carbontes. Those could all still be in there, but if you add in all the other pieces that go around those Carbontes, it probably makes it a lot easier. So that's really nice for him. But yeah, we'll have the links to both that gear Excel spreadsheet and this Reddit post. Once again, thank you to Idra Rage for making this. I'd love to update it even more and get that information out to people. But I went ahead and based on these rankings All right, welcome back, Wink. I lost you for a second.
I had to switch my internet. I was getting about every other word you were saying. I hotspotted on my phone, so we'll see if my phone does any better than my garbage internet.
All right, well, we can go from there. I was saying that I took these rankings from these characters that were put onto this page, and I kind of started going through some synergy teams and the rankings of the characters that make up those teams to kind of find out what some of the better synergy teams to gear are. So let's talk about some of these teams that we know and love. And so the first one I will talk about, Imperial Troopers. I put two teams here. I put a Veers Stark Shore Trooper Snow Trooper Range Trooper team, as well as a Veers Stark Shore Trooper or Snow Trooper Death Trooper Shore Trooper team. Sorry, that's wrong. Let me start over. A Veers Stark Shore Trooper range. Why do I keep saying Shore Trooper? One more time. A Veers Stark Snow Range Death Trooper team, as well as a Veers Stark Shore Snow Death Trooper team. So basically flopping out Range Trooper for Shore Trooper and what the gearing on those would be. So this one is not a very great one as far as gear goes. Veers is very easy. He's up in the top 30 at 25. But then it gets really rough because Stark is 96. Shore Trooper, if you decide to go with him when you're gearing up, is 154. And if you look at this list, right, 154 is second to last. So it's the second hardest gear of a character for Shore Trooper.
Wow.
So you throw
That's
him
not
there.
surprising. He's tough.
He takes a ton of gear. Yeah, for sure. I remember gearing him up, and it was tough.
And
Snow Trooper's 88 right in the middle. Okay, go ahead.
And the interesting thing is, you know, I think the team's better, you know, with Range Trooper instead of Shore Trooper if you can get him geared up. And the thing that I found interesting here recently is that Range Trooper doesn't need much gear. I mean, even if he's at gear 8 or 9, if you can just get him fast enough to gain turn meter, you know, through the Stark and, you know, the Stark chain of turn meter gain, I mean, he's unbelievable. So that team is absolutely great.
Yeah, so if you can get him, Range Trooper is 115 and Death Trooper is 117. So you got at least 3 in there over 100 rank. And so when it comes down to it, if you have the team using Shore Trooper, it's going to be average of a 95. So not great. Over the median of hard to gear teams. And Range Trooper is about 80. If you use Range Trooper instead of Shore Trooper, it drops down to 88. So that's where we're going to set the baseline for how hard the teams are to gear from here on out. But it's 88 to 95 is the ranking of just how hard that team is to gear, averaging out all the gear ranks for this team. Now, moving on to First Order. Let me bring this up on the show notes up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. First Order. So First Order, you got I did 2 teams here. Crew, Kylo, First Order Executioner, First Order Officer. You're hearing crackling. Everyone's watching you type. I'm hearing crackling from your audio.
I don't know if it's my internet or not, though.
Okay. We'll see. You actually sound better on this new one, so that's good. Oh,
really? Okay. Well, that's good.
Crew, there's 2 teams I listed out. Crew, Kylo Ren, First Order Executioner, First Order Officer, and Stormtrooper. Or if you wanted to flip out Stormtrooper for TIE Fighter Pilot, it's a much better gear grind for the team. First Order Stormtroopers ranked 110 on the list, and First Order TIE Fighter Pilot's only 28. So,
wow. If
you're going for a quick gear, you're going to be better off with TIE Fighter Pilot over Stormtrooper, but for the normal team, I believe the Stormtrooper's the guy, so I put him in there as well. Crew's up at 127. Kylo Ren's at 93, both of them kind of high, but then you get to Officer and Executioner 6 and 12, so that kind of makes it a little better for the team. So you saw that ranking for the Imperial Troopers up between 88 and 95. First Order, definitely a much better, easier gear based on those ratings because it's between 53 to 69. So you're already dropping about 20 points on how easy this First Order team is to gear than the Imperial Troopers.
Very nice.
Yeah. So everyone's hearing crackling, huh? Let me see. Yeah, I hear that crackling too now. All right, I will fix that for the next go round. But if we move down, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the interesting thing is, Crew kind of, he's fairly tough to gear, but, the other essential pieces are just so easy. I mean, First Order Executioner and Officer, I mean, if you just get them with Crew, you kind of stick in whatever else you got, and you're kind of in a good spot. I never would have guessed that team is that easy to gear in general.
Yeah, exactly. It's a better of the ones I listed here to gear. But I put a ranking of all these ones we're talking about right now at the bottom, just so everyone can see them stacked on top of each other. Bounty hunters, right? I listed 3 teams here, right? I listed Bosk, Boba, Dengar, Imbo, and then I let the 5th one be optional, whether it was Greedo, Cad Bane, or Zam Wessel. This team is, depending on who you put in it, can be decent or it can be right up there with Imperial Troopers, because Bosk is 30, Boba Fett's 112, Dengar's 100, Imbo's an 87, and here's the kicker, Greedo, and I totally believe this because I remember when I geared my Greedo how obnoxious he was. Greedo is 144 ranked. So if you pulled Greedo out, which is tough to do considering how much damage he can do, if you pulled him out, Cad Bane's a 38, so that's a much better, easier gear than Greedo, and Zam Wessel's right there in the middle at 90. So depending on who you put in, if it's Greedo, it's a 94. It's a hard to gear team.
He's
based
tough
on some of those characters, but if you went on down with Cad Bane instead of Greedo, then it drops all the way to a 73, which is better off than Imperial Troopers, but not quite as good as First Order. But it just depending on who you throw in there, it can be totally switch how hard that gearing that team is.
One thing that I do find interesting about this, Imbo I've noticed is pretty easy to gear, and he's a great character for this team. But Boba Fett and Dengar, they're pretty important. But Greedo, I really just kind of think he might be the worst bounty hunter for a bounty hunter team, and yet he's the most difficult to gear. He's probably the guy I would leave out, especially if you're using a Boba or Bosk lead, unless you're just going for raw damage. I mean, I think you'd want to leave Greedo out anyway because the other guys just offer more.
And because of the fact that they're up easier to gear on the list, it's probably a better idea to gear them first anyway. Especially if you're early game, making decisions on the easiest gear can probably help you out long term if you're gearing, if there's not a big disparity in how good they are between the two. So like if Greedo, Cad Bane, and Zam were interchangeable, I would go with Cad Bane because he's ranked 38 on the list. He's a good character. He has that stun. He can double tap. He does a lot of things. So
yes,
you got to look at like what the best output for your gear is gonna be, and if it takes you longer to get Greedo, you can get the team up and running quicker with Cad Bane for sure.
Well, and something else, Cad Bane's great in 3v3 because one thing I have kind of figured out is 3v3 stuns are fantastic, and if you have like a fast Bosk with with Cad Bane and Boba Fett, you can kind of get the other team in a stun lock, ability block type situation where it is unbelievably difficult to move. I figured this out the hard way. Very annoying.
Learning things the hard way is always annoying. That
is definitely true.
If you look at the bottom in the comments, someone actually came back, Stlbrews, and added in the newer bounty hunters like Imbo, Aura, and Django, and that's where I got their numbers from. But someone asked in chat about Django. Django is actually ranked 127 on the ranking list, so he is actually kind of hard to gear. So if you do go Django, you're making the decision to go with a harder gear. Aura Singh as well is ranked right after her, 128. So between the 3 newer bounty hunters, Django, Aura, and Imbo is definitely the best as far as gearing goes, dropping like, what is that, 40 points on the other two. So, and he's just really, really good.
He is. He's awesome for sure.
Now, here's a fun one for you, Wink. Now, I'm only put this in there for you because of the fact they gotta be updated at some point, right? And you got the Clone Troop last season of Clone Wars coming, so maybe we'll see a rework on the clones. But as far as clones go right now, Rex is number 9. We talked about that. And then you look at the other ones. Fives is 82, Echo is 51, Sergeant is 61, and the only really bad one is Cody at 125. So he drags the average up. But if we're looking at the averages of all the teams we've done so far, Clone Troopers, 65.6. That's the average for Clone Troopers. And that puts them right in the hunt with First Order as one of the easier ones that we've mentioned so far on teams to gear. Now, someone made a good point in chat about how some of these teams that are easier are the older teams, and that is completely true, and probably part of the reason clones are one of the easier teams to do. But if the team is decent and they're good, regardless of whether they're old or not, that's just a big upgrade, you know what I mean? Like the Night Sisters, or the Clone Troopers, or, you know, some of these First Order characters.
Yep, for sure. And
we also got Ewoks.
You know,
go ahead.
I was going to say one thing about the Clone Troopers. Even though they're such an easy team to gear, I mean, you don't really need to worry about most of them because they don't need to be synergized together like a lot of these other teams have to be, since you can pull Rex out and put him with another team.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other part of some of these, because gearing, and that's the nicest part about Rex, right? On that clone team being the number 9, because even if you decide not to gear the clones, the best one out of the group is the easiest to gear and one of the easiest in the game. So, yeah. So there's that.
So Ewoks, man.
Ewoks. Where do they rank?
How about them
because
Ewoks?
People were getting them C-3PO. Where does that team rank as far as gear goes? What was it really as hard as we thought to gear them for that C-3PO event? They're all pretty average, and there's one character that drops down that average considerably. Elder is ranked 14, but if you go through the rest of them, they're ranked between 83 and 95. So they're all right there, just past the middle point. If 78 was the median of where this 155 character thing is, that's just a guess on the maths there. But if you put it at 78, 4 of the characters are just above the median, and then you have Elder right down there near the bottom, one of the best gears. So that takes the Ewok team to a 73.6 rating, putting them right in the hunt with the Clone Troopers and the Imperial or First Order as one of the better gears. Makes sense again, right? But here's the thing. They aren't all old in that team. You've got Wicket, Logray, and Paplu, which are newer characters, but are still really decent gears. So the new character versus old character thing doesn't really... It still has merit, but there's still characters that have come to the game that were new, that were easy to gear. And not easy, but better than some of the more popular geared characters.
Indeed.
This is the one that blew my mind. This next team, because not gearing them, but you think about the fact that this is the team that most people grab from the beginning of the game now when they start new, because of the fact that you can get Palpatine and Thrawn with them.
That's true.
Right? But the fact is, they are the worst of any team that I looked at on this gear list by far. Like, the average is just
not even close,
heads and shoulders above everyone else. 155 was the highest and worst gear character in this game, and that's Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. Behind them, on this Phoenix team, you have Ezra at 153, Sabine at 151, Kanan at 145, Zeb at 143. Then you got Chopper at 124, and the best of the group is Hera at 90. Nothing below 90 on this team. And if you if you were to flip-flop Chopper and Zeb on the team, just to make the 2 teams, your best bet is using the Chopper team, and that is still only 4 points better than using Zeb. That's how bad the gearing on Phoenix is.
Yep. I just removed them out of my 5v5 squads builder list just because I don't use them. Because if I put them on defense, Wampa will take them out, and I'm not going to use them on offense because they're worthless. I do have Sabine and Ezra geared up because they are so versatile. I also think that Kanan is very versatile. Those 3 characters are really the only ones I think are worth investing heavily as far as gear goes.
Yeah, I'd say Ezra and Sabine are like the main ones that you would want to gear, and even then they are the 2 that are at the very top end of hard gears. So that's just rough to see.
Indeed.
So, but let's swing over. Actually, I'm gonna skip over Resistance real quick and go straight to Night Sisters because I want to go from one extreme, all the way to the other extreme. Look at this team. Our rankings here have been 65s and 94s and 73s and 50s, all kind of all over the place, up over the 50s. If you look at the standard Phase 4 Night Sister team of Talzin, Zombie, Talia, Daka, and Asajj, the rating is 32.6. The Night Sisters of the teams that I looked at are by far the easiest team to gear in the game. You got Talia at 5, you've got Asajj at 22, Daka at 24, Talzin's up at 41, and the hardest one being Zombie, a tank, at 71. Still not even past the median point of hard to gear characters. If I were to say
something that's interesting though.
Yeah, go ahead.
The team that I set on defense, I don't have Talia in there. I actually have an easier to gear Night Sister Acolyte, who is the easiest character to gear in the game.
Like if you were to like kind of even switch it around with some of these characters, you can make this team even easier to gear by throwing an Acolyte in there. And I don't know, let me see where Initiate was. I know no one uses her, but I'm kind of curious how
I think she's kind of tough.
Yeah, Initiate is the hardest of the Night Sisters at 135. So, yeah. But if you keep Initiate out, which most people do anyway, you are looking at a very, very easy team to gear as it goes compared to other teams. So that was kind of a big surprise for me as I did this, just to see just how much easier they are to gear than literally all the other teams that I looked at. So
yeah, it's very, very surprising, especially for how good they are. I mean, they are a pain in the ass in Grand Arena and Territory War. They're really good in the raids. I mean, they're awesome. And not to mention, if you gear them up, you have 2 separate teams for 3v3 Grand Arena. So, I mean, bang for your buck.
Yeah. Well, that's another one we didn't look up. Where does Spirit fall? I think Spirit's probably... Nope, she's not even that bad. Oh, that's a good point. Night Sister Spirit is 62. So, also another decently ranked Night Sister. So the only really bad one is Initiate up at 135. Every other Night Sister below the median point. So... And
Initiate is the one that you would leave out if you were making teams out of these characters.
2 teams of 3s? Yeah.
Yep. So that's awesome. I'm not terribly surprised by this, but or shocked, whichever one you want to go with, but this is great information to know.
Zinger.
That was not intentional, by the way.
Shocked or surprised you brought that up either.
All right, so moving on.
Why don't you talk about this one?
Next one is the Jedi Training Ray Resistance team, and this team is very interesting. So you have RJT at 116th. So she is more difficult on average to gear. But, I mean, she is the core of the team. She is now, after the the nerf slash rework, or leader ability nerf at least, she's by far the best leader, for resistance. So you have her, you have R2-D2 at 91, who you must gear because he can fit anywhere. BB-8's at 109, so he's kind of in that, barely getting into that last third as far as difficult to gear, but still amazingly fits in everywhere. But if you're using RJT, most of the time you're going to want Resistance Trooper because of how good he is. And he ranks at 31, which is absolutely awesome. Super easy to gear. I remember gearing him thinking about how easy he was to gear and just being such a good damage dealer. Hard to go wrong there. There is Finn at 67, Rey, who she's tough, but she's good, but she's tough at 130. So gear wise, if you're a newer player, probably recommend leaving Rey out because Finn, can kind of take her spot now, being as good of a damage dealer as he is, and the fact that his leader ability's whatever now. Now, if you look at the overall team, if you use Rey instead of Resistance Trooper, you're at 102.6 average versus with Resistance Trooper, 82.8. So he really brings down the average as far as difficulty of gearing.
Yeah, because JTR team with Rey is one of the highest numbers there of these teams we have. But if you put in Resistance Trooper instead of the Rey, drops down right into the middle of the pack as well. So I would definitely say Resistance Trooper is he's just great under RJT anyway. So it's not like a no-brainer, but it's definitely easy to make that decision. So
for sure.
Let's look at this last team. I didn't know what to do with the 5th slot because now that we have Darth Revan, which is obviously not on this guy's list because that's it's about 8 months old, so definitely want to get this thing updated. But it's a Sith team starting out with Traya, Nihilus, Scion, Sith Trooper, and then adding in a 5th. And I didn't add in like Palpatine or Vader because of the fact that you'd probably use them in a different team, not in this one. But I put Dooku and Sidious because they're about the only ones Sith players left to gear for that besides Sith Empire characters. And maybe I didn't put Savage in here because Savage under Traya is just doing the same thing. Is it her unique or her leader? I don't know. The one that just takes away the debuffs at the start of their turn. So Savage isn't really needed in the team. Maul I didn't put in there, though he might fit. I just didn't put him in there because everyone uses him for a leader. He's great at it.
True.
But he might actually be decent in there because of the AoE days, And I can look up what his is while we're doing this. But that Sith team is one of the higher ones to gear, mostly because of Scion. Scion is up at the hardest to gear levels with 149.
He's tough.
Sith Trooper, same thing. He's up there, 129. Those two bring that average up way high because Nihilus, not bad, 53. Traya, actually not bad for a raid reward character at 68. And then you can start getting into the other characters. Dooku's a 36, so he's an easy one to gear to throw in as a 5th. Really annoying. We all know Dooku if you've played this game for a long time. Darth Sidious, I don't know anyone that's gearing him. I don't know anyone that's using him, but he's a 64, so he's not too bad. Let me look up Maul real quick, and we'll tell you exactly where he fits in.
I believe Emperor Palpatine was right around 30, so if you fit him in, he would bring the average of these teams down even further. And he's, of course, one of those characters that if you want to, I mean, you can use Traya, Nihilus, Scion under Emperor Palpatine, if you don't have, like, Vader or Tarkin or whatever. Emperor Palpatine's lead is just kind of great with so many characters. With Traya's lead, you almost have to have Nihilus and Scion with her. But, Emperor Palpatine's super versatile, so that is always a solution as well.
Agreed. I agree. Yeah, he was ranked 27, I think, so would definitely bring down that average. If with Palpatine, you're looking probably right around 80-ish, bringing him in instead of Dooku. Sidious puts you at 92.6, and Maul, I'm assuming, would bring you up near 100. So this is not
be right around 95.
Okay, so there you go. Not on the easier spectrum of the teams we've listed, but definitely not a Phoenix team.
Yeah, that's true. And these characters are great. Darth Nihilus he's kind of a plug and play character. I mean, you can use him under Rex, you can use him under Darth Revan if you have him, Emperor Palpatine, Traya. Like, he has so many uses just because he has such a unique kit, and being that easy, that's awesome. Very exciting there. And Sith Trooper and Scion, Scion you almost have to have Traya for, and Sith Trooper you kind of need other good Sith for. And you don't necessarily have to have him for Emperor Palpatine. If you go that route, you could use Shore Trooper instead, who's also difficult to gear, but both those characters kind of lack the versatility that I think Nihilus and Traya offer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you're looking at your team comps, just team rankings, let's rank those teams that I mentioned by gear level. And if you're listening to the podcast, you're watching it live, if you want to drop some feedback in the Discord about other teams you'd like me to go in and rank and see where they fit on this list, let me know, because I just kind of quickly put together a good chunk of teams before the podcast to talk about. But I know that we're missing some Rebel teams. I just didn't want to have to write out 10 Rebel teams or, Empire. I didn't do them. There's some teams that are obviously missing here, and it would be interesting to see where they rank on this list as well. But for the ones we have, the easiest by far is the Night Sisters, ranked at 32.6 average difficulty for their ranking, gearing on those characters. And then second place is the Clone Troopers. I wouldn't recommend gearing them for any reason other than just hopeful and wishful thinking that with this Clone Wars final season coming out that we'll see a Clone Wars rework or something to do with Clone Wars characters. So they are an easy gear. So if you want to do it, or you're at a point where you have a new team that you can work on and you don't have this one, it's not going to be so bad. The only bad one in there was Cody. Then the other one, another one that's easy to recommend based on the numbers, is the First Order with a 53 if you're using First Order TIE Fighter pilot. But if you switch out Stormtrooper, it's a 69, which is still the third best for a gearing of a team right there. And we all know how good First Order is in this game, at least as far as PvP goes. So that is definitely another good one to work on. For newer players, if you go First Order, I think I did a new player segment talking about possibly going after First Order to start your account. If you did that, doing that would be a much easier gear road than starting out with Phoenix, as we can see from this. So First Order, definitely a good one. Would put you right on the path for BB-8 and set you up really nicely for JTR. Ewoks, 73.6. If you don't have them, another good gear. Also gets you C-3PO. Good team for PvP. I mean, just some of these easier geared synergy teams are really good teams, excluding clones for now. But yeah, then you start getting into the ones that are just kind of all stacked together. So basically, if you pick one of these, they're probably going to be about the same length of time to gear. They probably use different pieces, but it's about the same difficulty. And that would be the Sith, Resistance, JTR, Bounty Hunters, and Imperial Troopers. So any of those teams... Go ahead.
One thing I find interesting about all those teams in that bunch is they all kind of have characters that you can move in and out. They all have really good, alternatives. Whereas like the Night Sisters, Clone Troopers, First Order, Ewoks, I mean, the teams we talked about were kind of the optimal teams for those, versus these other teams that you can kind of mix and match a little bit more.
Yep.
And then, of course, like you said, Phoenix is just atrocious as far as gear. Use them to get what you need to get, Thrawn and such. Gear the ones that are more versatile and let the others go, in my opinion, because...
The only painful part about this team being so hard to gear is the fact that their ships are good.
Their ships are awesome, yes.
Especially with the Millennium Falcon. So them being that hard to gear kind of sucks for that reason, because those ships are usable and good, but
that's
just so
part
tough.
of the reason why I also suggest Ezra and Sabine, because they're both in the better ship. They're probably the two most versatile characters, so you get a lot of return on investment by gearing those two because of them having the best ship and being the best characters to put in other teams as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, so for those that were asking where CLS is,
this should be good.
Commander Luke Skywalker is 66th, so he's below the median.
That's not bad.
Not so bad.
That's an interesting number to be at too.
Oh,
it would have been more interesting if General Kenobi was 66.
Kenobi was 66th, yeah. C3PO is not on here because he's too new, as well as Chewbacca. All you have is the Clone Wars veteran smuggler. Who knew Clone Wars Chewbacca was 42? I mean, I guess he is an older character, so... But...
Yeah. Yeah,
on the more
I
fun
remember...
side, veteran smuggler Chewbacca, the worst of the Chewbaccas, 120. So it's no surprise why people wouldn't bother, besides the fact that he's terrible. So, yeah.
Well, you use him to get RJT, so...
that's true. You gotta have some gear on him.
Indeed.
Where's Gamguard and Rose? All right, we're taking calls here.
All right, let's check. I am very interested to see where Gamguard is, because I haven't geared him. I really don't have
112.
112. Okay.
112. So on the harder side, but not for me because I don't have to put any gear on him anymore.
Do you have gear 12 plus pieces on him too?
12 plus? I do not. I do have gear 12 pieces on him because it added the extra health on him. Rose Tico, 122.
Yeah, I've kind of quit gearing her. I think she's stuck at gear 10 for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed with her. She's not that great. I'm really not impressed.
So I'm going to add both the gear spreadsheet, and then there's also an Excel spreadsheet of this Reddit post. I'm going to post those both in the resource section of the podcast server, so everyone can go take a look at when they want. And I'm going to reach out to the guy that made this Reddit post, because I'd really like to see if he's still playing and around, and if he would like to update it or be cool with me using it and updating it and maybe putting it on our site, because I think this is a really
that'd be awesome
resource. So
yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah. So that's that. You guys can look that up when I post it, or you can just search on the internet after the show and everything. But yeah, really helpful as far as figuring out easier to gear characters. You want to just get up. You can, if you got a ship in mind you like, you can go on there and search for the character for that ship and see how hard it is going to be to get that ship usable, things like that. So very cool. Very cool.
Nice. Well, we ready to jump into this last topic?
I totally am.
It's time for the sexy bearded duo to battle in their SWGOH knowledge in the most exciting trivia event in the Outer Rim. It's time for the Shattered Order Trivia. May the Force be with you.
All right, so Shattered Order Trivia. Thank you to Tesh for busting out this quiz for us today. We did the show a day early. Forgot to mention it to Tesh. He was able to put this together for us for the show late in the day today, so we really appreciate that. Should be fun. Today's topic is basic attacks and how well we know basic attacks. So I'm really curious to see how well I know some of these basic attacks.
No kidding.
Because you were mentioning Imbo dispelling on basic, and I had totally forgot about that. So there you go.
Nice. All right, well, let's see how well we know some basic attacks. The game code is 893348. And this is, of course,
348.
And this is, of course, on Quizziz.
Quizziz.com.
Indeed. All right, so let's enter this bad boy. You got yours
I'm
up?
bringing it up. Yeah, I do. I'm putting in my name. All right. Don't want that. All right, I'm ready when you are. Just tell me the word.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. First question. Whose basic should be easy, right? Deal physical damage to target enemy. In addition, X gains 35% turn meter if that enemy had more than 50% turn meter. This is Iola, Cody, Chirpa, or Kygon.
Huh.
I've narrowed it down to 2, but it's going to be a guess.
I am guessing as well.
Oh, man.
Did you get it right or wrong?
I got it wrong. I guessed Cody, and it was Chirpa.
It was. I guessed Chirpa.
Yep. Should have gone with the Ewok and all the turn meter gain.
Yep, they like the TM game. They are awesome.
All right. They definitely that turn meter gain is definitely awesome. 2 out of 7. Here we go. Deal physical damage to target enemy. Inflict speed down for 2 turns and remove 20% turn meter. Gain turn meter equal to the amount removed.
Woo. Ooh, that sounds very annoying.
Yeah.
And the options are I'm a Gun D, Night Sister Spirit, 5s, or Young Han Solo. What did you select?
I haven't selected yet. I'm still trying to... Ah, man. I'm going to go with Spirit.
That is a wise choice, because Spirit is the correct answer.
All right.
I actually did know that one because I was getting just hosed by a zombie and Spirit in a recent Grand Arena, and it caused me to look at her basic because I was like, something just feels off. I did not realize her basic ability was that good. Very, very good basic.
I think Spirit is just a good character in general.
Yes, she is.
I really like
She's
her.
Great.
Next question. Deal physical damage to target enemy. This attack deals 100% more damage and inflicts defense down to droids. Ugnaught, Amagundi, Kvothe, or Jawa. This is a good question because all of those characters, if you had to guess, seem like characters that might be the correct answer.
I'm down to 2, but I don't know which one. Wow.
Did you get it right?
I did not.
Dang. I guess I'm a gun D, but the correct answer was Ugnaught.
Yeah, did not see that coming. I selected Kvothe, and boy was I wrong.
I have my Gear 11 Kvothe, so I was pretty sure it wasn't him. Yeah, I said Gear 11 Kvothe. Why?
Yeah, that's
Because he's in the top 10 of easiest to gear characters.
okay. That's fair, I guess.
Alright, 4 out of 7. Deal physical damage to target enemy with a 45% chance for all allies to recover 6% of blank's max health. Visas Mar, Vandor Chewy, Barris Offee, and Luminara.
Ooh. I think I know the answer on this one. And I do not know the answer on this one.
No? You got it wrong? I'm going to go
did.
with Vandor Chewy. It's actually Barris. That's crazy.
Yeah, I did not guess. I did not know she healed on basic. Very interesting. I knew that I selected the other Jedi. Oh, what's her face? Luminara, and I knew she had some healing stuff. I think that's only with her Zeta lead, maybe. I can't remember. Very tough.
Well, she does have the special that is a heal, but
yeah.
There's that. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict defense down until the end of X's next turn. This attack deals 50% more damage to targets suffering from defense down. Answers are Amilyn Holdo, Colonel Stark, Dathcha, and Wedge Antilles.
I think I know the answer on this one. Ooh. I do know the answer on this one.
I'm down to 2 guesses.
These are pretty
know.
tough. Oh, I would like to gloat for a second. I won trivia last week.
You did.
The scores were not great, but Wink won.
Oh yeah, overall, over everyone that took it, you were the number 1. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm not sure that's happened.
I thought you were coming back to the fact that you beat me again, and I was like, okay, all right.
Well, I mean, I did because I beat everyone, though.
That's part of it, yeah, sure. Deal physical damage to target enemy with a 70% chance
Wait,
to
what
stun
did you
the
select
enemy.
on the last one?
I selected Dathcha. I thought it was Amilyn Holdo or Dathcha, but apparently I didn't realize Wedge did a defense down.
Yes, I got that one right, actually.
Use him all the time and don't even realize that he did defense down.
Yep.
Hate defense down. Alright, deal physical damage to target enemy with a 70% chance to stun the enemy for 1 turn. If the target was debuffed, blank gains 20% turn meter. IG-100, Aura Singh, Garazeb Aurelius, or Royal Guard.
I did know this one as well.
I feel like the one I want to pick, the percentage isn't that high. But I'm going to click it anyway. Yep, I was wrong. I picked Royal Guard. I was wrong. It was Aura Singh.
No, it was Ayla Secura.
Was it Ayla Secura? I'm pretty sure that was Aura, not Ayla.
Pretty sure it was Ayla because
we can see the ending. At the end, we can see what it was when it goes over the questions. But I thought it said Aura Singh. Dispel all buffs and deal physical damage to target enemy. This is the last question. This is the only chance I have to get any more points. I only have 1 out of 6.
It was Aura Singh. I don't know what I was saying.
If you clicked it thinking it was Ayla, that is some dang luck there. Dispel all buffs and deal physical damage to target enemy. Imbo, Paplu, Darth Nihilus, or Sunfok. Funny, because all of these do this, but which one is correct? I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to be wrong.
I just talked about this one. That is how I knew. I remembered Imbo.
Yep. I picked Sunfok because it just seemed like it was just way too easy to be one of the newer characters, but it was.
Yep. Imbo's is very simple and to the point.
Nope. I missed 6 out of 7. I got 1.
Ouch.
You got what, 3 or 4?
I actually got 5 out of 7. I did pretty well on that one.
Oh, dang. You got 5, huh? Didn't realize.
Yeah.
All right.
Not too shabby. I missed the let's see, I missed the Barasafi one and then the Ugnaught one.
Jeez, man. I'm seeing in chat 1 out of 7, 1 out of 7, 2 out of 7. Rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
Rough one.
Very rough. All right. Well, so one thing we didn't do this week were giveaways. Next week, we will shout out to all of our Patreons and do some gift card giveaways. So if you're a Twitch subscriber, make sure you get that sub done this week if you're not already sub. That way you can be in the drawing for the $30 gift card next week on the show. And man, anything else?
I think that's it for us this week. So, well, thanks for everyone for being flexible, coming and hanging out with us on Thursday. We appreciate that. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode talking about gear, and hopefully that helps some of you guys when you're making your decisions, and we can get
Indeed.
that updated and continue to keep it updated, hopefully, and then have it as a good resource for everyone. So,
Heck yeah.
sounds good. Well,
All
and
right.
for both of us, we appreciate you being here, and join us on Discord, discord.me/shatteredorder. If you have any feedback, send it to us at theshatteredorder@gmail.com.
Make sure you fill out that survey that's in the show notes and on our Discord. That is a great way to give us feedback, especially this week. It'll be open all week, so do it whenever you get a chance, please.
And for those asking about where you can find the show notes, they are always listed in the description of the podcast on whatever thing you're using to listen to the
And
show.
generally they're on the website, but I am seriously backlogged on that. I need to get to that, but yeah, eventually they will be on the site.
So there you go. Once again, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. We will catch you all next week.
Later.
You've just finished with the Shattered Order podcast. Join us next week for another round.